every person in your life that you call friend treated you as if you were their best friend? Let that sink in for a second. The best relationships in our lives have something in common. They make us feel seen. They make us feel like we're the only person in the room. That's what we mean when we call somebody our best friend. So let me ask you this. When was the last time a business that you did business with made you feel that way? I can see the head nods and the looks of disbelief. I've never felt like I was the only customer. That gap between what you are all experiencing today, what we as consumers experience today, and what we want, to be treated as if we are the only customer that matters to that business, that gap is what I call thinking human. And here's the sad part. We as consumers have actually conditioned ourselves to expect bad experiences. We go into shopping, we go into traveling, we go in expecting a fight. We're armed, we're ready for battle. And as a result, we have set a message out into the world that we as consumers have stopped demanding more. And when you train the world that way, you actually get less. And the reason why I know this is this. How many of you do business with a business that you absolutely can't stand doing business with? It's true. It could be your airline, it could be your insurance company, it could be your dry cleaner. But by doing business with them, what you're saying is that it's okay, that it's normal to do business with a business that doesn't treat you the way you expect to be treated. The other part of that is that we have been conditioned not to recognize when somebody actually treats us the way we want to be treated. That small moment of where somebody thinks human. And here's a good example. When my kids were little, my wife and I would take them out to lunch. I'll never forget the hostess seeing my wife and I with two little kids. And for all of you parents in the room, you know that when you go out with kids, they have stuff. And as opposed to cramming us into a booth for 4, they put us at a booth for 6. Small thing. Wasn't the most efficient thing for the restaurant, but it was the most thoughtful. Or how about the time that you are 4 deep in line and you make eye contact with an employee who kind of gives you a wink and opens up the next register without having you to ask? Those are moments where that business is thinking human. Now, it's easy to say, okay, in hindsight, I understand that. But what happens when you are in the suck, when you are in a moment where everything is going wrong? And I'll give you a good example. My son, Ben, he's 16 years old, plays catcher. Second day of high school baseball tryouts, on the second to last throw, he hears a pop. And I'll never forget, and I got to keep myself composed because it's still super emotional for me. I'll never forget when I drove up to the high school and his arm was wrapped in ice and he was in tears and I was in tears, and it wasn't just because I was worried about the pain, but about the moment of realization that we both had that all of his hard work was over in that instance. But like most parents, we go into superhero mode. It's now our chance to do what we are trained to do, what we are instinctually driven to do, which is to take care of our kids. And as somebody who has spent 2 decades building brand experiences for many of the Fortune 100 brands, I am a brand experience superhero. I know all the cheat codes. I know exactly what they're going to ask, when they're going to ask it. I come prepared. If I ever had an opportunity to bring my A game, this was it. But I had something happen that had never happened to me. None of my superpowers were working. I was transformed from brand expert superhero to just Ben's dad trying to get him some help. Trying to move this process forward to get his surgery approved. I was stuck at the intersection of dumb and stupid. And so I had to go deep into my playbook. And I had to call, I guess what you would call a Hail Mary. I decided that I was going to call the hospital administrator. And I have to tell you, I remember preparing for that phone call like I was getting ready to do an opening argument in front of the Supreme Court. I actually even think I wore a blazer for the phone call because my blazer is like my superhero cape. And I wanted to come armed for bear. And I remember I got the number, I called, and her assistant picked up. And you can imagine what happens. Is she expecting your call? Nope. Can I take a message? And something happened. It had never happened to me before. Instead of going through my case, My opening argument, the only thing I could say, the only thing I could get myself to say was, my name is Doug Zarkin, my son Ben is hurt, and I need your help. And there was silence on the phone. And she said to me, Mr. Zarkin, tell me your story. And I could swear that it was 20 minutes of back and forth. I gave her every detail. I mean, look, I'm a brand marketing superhero. I know these customer experiences. Everything they're going to ask, I had an answer for. I had every pre-approval. I had every number. I had every code. But I still wasn't getting anywhere. And as opposed to transferring me, at the end of the call, she said to me, Mr. Zarkin, I promise you she'll get back to you. Well, guess what? She never did. But this is where the story gets good. Okay. 2 days later, my cell phone rings and it's my son's office. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, here we go again. More paperwork, more nonsense, more bullshit. Call it what it is. And I heard something I didn't expect. Mr. Zarkin, Ben's surgery is scheduled for Monday. We got him. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And what I came to find was that that assistant, who had absolutely no authority, there was nothing in it for her, decided that she was going to make Ben the only patient that mattered in that hospital. She pushed through all the approvals, got through everything done, and in a moment where, quite frankly, I was just losing complete faith in a process that was broken and for many of us still is, one person changed the narrative. She made my son her priority. She didn't follow a script. She made a decision to think human. And here's what's interesting. That decision was not a rational decision. There was nothing in it for her. There was no ROI on helping me. There was nothing in it for her to help me. She made an emotional decision first. She heard a dad who needed help and decided that she was going to make it her mission to do so. And that reveals something really important inside all of us. We don't make rational decisions. We like to think we do, especially for the big decisions. We actually make emotional decisions, and then we rationalize them in hindsight. And depending on how big they are, I'm married 23 years to my wife. Now, it's the same thing when we choose brands, whether that's where we're going to go, who we're going to buy from. We choose brands because of how they make us feel emotionally, and then we explain it to ourselves later. That same pattern, emotional decision first, rational choice second, is happening every time a customer decides where to spend their money and, importantly, if and when they're going to come back. Regardless of how much money you make, $50,000, $500,000, $5 million, every single one of us is calculating what I call the brand value equation. What did I experience versus what did I pay? Brand value equals experience divided by price. The better the outcome of that, the more likely you are to trust that brand. And when the experience isn't good, and all we're left to do is evaluate that purchase based on price, brands run a very, very big risk. They run the risk of falling into something that I know many of you know, you may not want to admit it. It's called the friend zone. Okay? It's the same friend zone that you're thinking of. Before you may have found that forever someone in your life, you may have found a special someone. And you worked up the courage, and you let them know how you feel, and maybe you even went in for that first kiss. And you got what I call the Heisman. Well, wait a minute. I like you. I just don't feel the same way about you. That doesn't mean that you're not liked. That just means that you're fine. You're forgettable. And when that happens to brands, when brands become forgettable, customers don't leave instantly. They leave quietly. Because when you don't have a great experience, when you don't deliver a great experience to a customer, you are not creating love. All you're doing is creating a series of transactional friendships. But brands know that there's that risk, so they've created the saving grace, the relationship counselor. Do you know what that is? Customer service. Now, you can laugh because I think we all know that customer service doesn't really feel like it's about the customer, and it sure isn't about service. while you're screaming into your cell phone, representative, agent, and you're sticking your finger through the cell phone 0 or pound sign. What you don't realize is that you actually have agreed to participate in the off Broadway production of Hamlet. It is a Greek tragedy. I have a problem. I'm sorry for your frustration. Can you help me? I'm sorry for the inconvenience. And that's when it hits you. Customer service isn't about you. Customer service isn't service. Customer service is built to be the place where brands apologize. And in that moment in particular, it's such an important moment for brands because that's the opportunity where a brand can show you that they are thinking human. Because all you want is for somebody to treat you like a human being. Customer service isn't solving the problem. That's the place where the apology is given. And what's interesting is I have seen a really different approach to this when I spent some time in Japan. There is this word, I think it's more of a philosophy, and it's called omotenashi. And it's about taking responsibility for the experience before the customer even asks. If you ever want to Google business card exchange or tea ceremony, the smallest thing is ritualized. Why? Because it's not about scripts, it's not about a handoff, it's not about getting the customer in and out as quickly as you can. It's about designing an experience that respects the person on the other end of it, that treats that experience like that's the only experience that that person is going to have that day, and that it's the only experience that matters to you. Treating each experience with a person as if it's the only one that matters, that is thinking human. But you don't have to go to Japan to experience this. If you're familiar with the Ritz-Carlton, here's something maybe you don't know. From the housekeeper to the front door staff, did you know that every employee is empowered to spend up to $2,000 to make something right with a guest if they see it? No escalation, no script, no process. The Ritz-Carlton expects that problems don't get managed, that they get solved. But the challenge that we all face as consumers is that most companies don't trust their people to think or act human or even speak human. What the Ritz-Carlton has done is taken their employees and created an entire league of brand superheroes. That is thinking human. And here's the part we don't like to talk about as people. That lack of humanity that we deal with every single day, that's not just on companies, that's on us as well. Because every time we accept the script, we accept the, hey, that's just not possible. Hey, that's not in our protocol. Hey, our manager said no. If we want the brands to give us more, we as people have to demand it. We have to reward the brands that do with great reviews, but also with our business. And so here's the challenge. If you are somebody who runs a brand, raise the damn standard. Don't do a new marketing campaign. Raise your standard. If you are somebody who employs people, empower them to think, not act, but think like a brand superhero. And for all of you that are consumers, you got to raise your darn expectations. Because every time we settle, every time we say it's okay not to treat us like we are the only customer that matters, we become part of the problem. So I'll leave you where we started. What if every friend treated us as if we were their best friend? And what if every business treated us as if we were the only customer that mattered? Because in a world with endless options, people don't stay loyal to what they notice. People stay loyal to what makes them feel something. That's the difference between being chosen and being forgotten. And oh, Ben, he's fine, he's back, he's playing baseball. But the way his room looks, you'd think he had 2 broken arms. Thank you.